Hey guys, in this series Mariano5 and myself are going to discuss 10 very common leaks we've spotted over the thousands of combined hours we've played at the live cash games, along with what we can do to avoid them and immediately increase our win rate.
Yeah, that's right, and we're also excited to announce that we have an entire Raise Your Edge course coming out in early 2019, which is focused solely on crushing the live games. In the course, we'll be expanding on all the concepts in the series, plus everything else you'll need to be successful at the live felt. But for now, let's get into the leaks.
Hey guys, this is Followed A6 for Raise Your Edge, and welcome to leak number 4. Donk betting flop with top pair. And donk betting is when we bet into the pre-flop raiser as caller. And as rule number 1, you never want to do that. Please never lead into the pre-flop raiser. Especially not when you're heads up. You have so many options. You can check call, you can check fold, and you can check raise. But please, never donk bet. And yeah, really a lot of people do this with middling type hands or with middling type draws. But there's no advantage in leading flops. That's the biggest problem. At first, you're leading into a stronger uncapped range. So your opponent can always have all these stronger hands. For an example, you lead on a Jack 10 Queen board against a cutoff open raise, and your opponent can have all the straights like Ace King, 8-9, King 9, all his sets, 10s, Jacks, Queens, all the 2 pairs, Jack 10 suited, Queen Jack, Queen 10, and so on. And yeah, you cannot have all those hands, especially like Ace King is fairly hard, Queens, Jacks, 10s, same problem, Ace Queen, same story. So as you can see, we immediately have a huge problem. Two things can happen. We are either raised off our equity because our hand is too weak, or we are paying too much against a stronger range. The problem is that we only have 1, max 2 streets when we are ahead. For example, if you flop a good second pair or an okayish top pair, your opponent will usually not call 3 streets with a worse hand than yours. And you also don't want to get more money into the pot usually. When you have a marginal hand, just keep the pot small. Try to go to showdown as fast as possible. And when you have a big draw or a big hand, sure, you can check raise. But again, just don't donk bet. And also, if your opponent checks back, it's not the end of the world if you have top pair. He's not drawing for free. Super often he's drawing super thin to 3 outs or less. And he definitely has not a strong draw on the flop, because with his draws he would definitely bet flop. If you donk into the pre-flop raiser, he's just folding his bluffs, so you lose value against his bluffs. Because you also play this way, and sometimes, as I already mentioned, your opponent draws very thin. So if the board is ace, deuce, 6 or whatever, you have a weak ace. If you lead, your opponent is folding a hand like Jack 10 high or Queen Jack high or whatever. But if you check, there's a great chance that he's c-betting, because he has range advantage. On this board texture, we would also c-bet this board with a very high frequency, so you get a ton of value from his bluffs, but you get 0 if you lead, so he's able to fold out all his bluffs, but he will never fold a better hand. So with Ace King on an ace high board texture, of course he's not folding flop, so yeah, you lose additional money. And again, if he bets Jack 10 on the flop, we have the chance that he picks up equity on the turn, so the turn is a queen or a king, so we get more value. Or he hits a 10 or a jack, so he hits short on value, and he's probably going to call a river bet. Or he's betting turn himself, who knows. As you can see, it's super important to keep his bluffs in there, and fairly often he's not only bluffing 1 street. The other important point is that we say what we have and we miss free information. If the original raiser bets multi-way and he gets raised, we can easily get away from top here. But if we donk bet flop with top here and we get raised, it's so much harder to fold. And of course we also have to invest way more money for this information, and we could get it for free with a check, and that's the reason why we should check flop. The next problem is when you donk bet, this weakens our checking range considerably, because when we check, we either have a super weak pair that we don't want to donk bet, or we have nothing. So if we check, we probably fold like 80-90% of our hands to a c-bet if we donk bet most middling type hands and draws. And that's also the reason why a lot of fun players have those super high check folding stats when they have a huge donk bet range. Okay, let's start with our first example hands. As you can see, we have king 9 in hearts. ABC rec makes it 4x, makes it 20, we play 2-5. Tight passive, calls on the hijack. Everyone else folds, and with king 9 in hearts, we're super happy to make the call pre-flop. Super profitable call. Yeah, flop is not too bad. Flop is 9-6 for rainbow. Not getting too much better than this. And yeah, we donk bet 35. And again, as I previously mentioned, if we donk bet really hard for the ABC rec to bluff here, he's folding all his bluffs. And as you can see, he has probably a ton of backdoor straight draws and backdoor flush draws. And most ABC recs c-bet those board textures definitely way too wide, because they think they have so much fold equity, because the board is super dry. But yeah, probably not 100% true, and the tight passive player also folds. But here in this hand, you really see the problems with donk betting, because what are you going to do if the ABC rec goes ahead and raises? He makes it 120, and now are you going to fold? Are you going to call? It's such a hard decision. But we also have a lot of problems on later street. So let's say ABC rec calls, tight passive folds, turn is a brick, and now do you have a value bet? Do you go into check call mode? Do you check call all the overcards? Do you check fold some overcards? And if you bet turn, when the turn is a brick, we bet turn, what are you going to do on the river? So as you can see, it's so hard with those middling type or good top pair hands in those situations, because the ABC rec has so many better hands than we have. Of course he can have hands like 10s, jacks, queens, kings, aces, pocket 6s, pocket 4s, ace 9, and when we have him beat, he has, let's say, pocket 8s, he's maybe folding pocket 8s on the flop, and if not, he's folding those hands on the turn. And yeah, even against the worst 9s, we only have 2 streets, so when he has hand like 9-10, we only get usually 2 streets out of him. And if we check call, the same thing will happen. He will c-bet flop, turn is check check, or he bets, and yeah, we bet river, or he calls river, and we get the 2 bets in. But again, if we donk bet flop, we just fold out so much from his bluffing range, and this is the biggest problem in situations like this. And as you can see, the board is super dry. We don't need to protect against anything, and yeah, if we had a stronger hand, we could check raise or a nice draw. But yeah, with this pretty good top here, it's a perfect hand to check call. There are not a ton of super bad turn cards for us, I would say. And also we miss out on information. So if we check ABC rec bets and the tight passive player goes ahead and raises, I'm definitely going to fold. But if we bet ABC rec raises, tight passive calls, we can probably not fold right away. So we lose even more money with this donk bet line, and this is really the problem. So as you can see, it's really hard to find advantages against those 2 players on this board texture. So please go ahead and check call and don't donk bet. Okay, let's move on to the second and last donking hand. Random player makes it 15. Everyone folds. Of course, we opt for the call with ace-10 suited. Raise sizing is on the bigger side in this 1-3 game, but with ace-10 suited, it's still a super profitable call. Yeah, flop is fairly good for our hand again, and we decide to lead fairly big to get value from second pairs and so on. But our opponent has other plans, and he raises. And again, it's a super awkward situation because our opponent has a range advantage. He has all the ace kings, all the ace queens, all the ace jacks, aces, pocket eights, pocket threes, ace 3 suited, ace 8 suited. And yeah, we cannot have hands like ace king or aces. And especially on this board texture, our opponent is definitely betting all his bluffs on the flop, I would say. At least most of the time. So yeah, hands like 9-10, Jack-10, Queen-Jack, and so on. I think he will bet those hands all on the flop. Because we don't need to have an ace, right? We can have like 9-10 suited ourselves and then we need to fold. So yeah, if we bet, he's probably not peeling flop with 9-10 or 10-Jack. So yeah, he's probably peeling with an 8 or with jacks, queens, kings, and so on. But he's probably going to bet those hands himself. We only have one street against those hands, and I don't think those hands can call 2 streets anyway, so it makes no difference. And yeah, same applies to the worst aces. He's probably value betting flop with those hands himself. If not, we get 2 streets, turn river. But again, we get so much more value from his bluffs, and also we get additional value on the turn. Cause yeah, he's not slowing down with all his bluffs on the turn. Cause yeah, if he picks up equity or he just likes his hand, he will continue barreling turn, maybe riff. And yeah, that's the reason why you should always check a board texture like this heads up. And if he has a stronger hand, we just lose so much more money. Cause instead of losing 20 on the flop, we lose 55, as you can see. And of course, then we need to lose our whole stack most of the time, because yeah, our opponent raises flop, probably bets turn, probably jams river, and we always have the super hard river decision. And again, if your opponent has a weaker hand than yours, like ace deuce suited for example, you're getting your 2 streets anyway. You don't need to donk bet flop. And yeah, protection is of course unnecessary on this board texture. What is ace 8-3 rainbow? Not getting better than that. And even if he checks flop, you can go ahead, bet turn, bet river, and he's probably always going to call down with ace deuce. And yeah, if he bets flop, bets turn, that's also fine for us, no problem. But yeah, really want that money from yeah, Jack-10, Queen-Jack, King-Queen, 6-7, and so on, that sometimes barrels turn, sometimes barrels river. And that's the reason why checking heads up is just so much more profitable. And you can really see this super good on this board texture. The solution to this is fairly simple. Checking almost always as a standard. If you think you could donk bet in the situation, always think about the pros and cons. Really resist the urge to bet the flop into the preferred raiser. Just get used to it. When you apply those concepts, you will see that this is so much better for your game and also way easier to play post flop. You will see how much money you make against your opponent's bluffing range. Okay, that's it for this league. I hope you have a pretty good understanding now why donk betting is a pretty bad idea. And I'll see you next time, and this was Fallout A6 for Raise Your Edge.